gonna start letting people into the room. All right. Mid person and then all right. I guess yeah, Joseph, you want to get started.
Yeah, sounds
Sure
good.
we'll come back, but I already told them I told them we're actually gonna start 5 minutes ago, so and then we have the YouTube replay anyways. So yeah,
Sounds good. Sounds
get
good.
started.
Yeah, thanks, Scotty. Hey, everyone. I'm Joseph. I'm last year's Live AI winner for FinTech and blockchain. Yes, Scotty had me back this year, and this year I'm a speaker, so guess getting a little bit of upgrade. But yeah, I want to talk to you guys about rethinking money and currency system design because I think in terms of blockchain, a lot of the ideas, have philosophical origins and economics and history and things like that. So, and th this is not intended to be a lecture. It's more just kind of inform you guys, expose you guys to some of the ideas and kind of use cases. So it's more, discussion based and kind of looking through different things. And so, and also in economics, I think nobody really agrees with anybody else. So there's always different schools. So anything I say today is kind of open for debate and discussion, right? So I usually I start this, and typically I think the topic of money, what money is, what monetary system is one of the most interesting topic, but also kind of the most hotly debated and contentious topic. So I don't know if um, uh, I don't know where you guys from. Does anyone want to kind of like mention? I know you guys are global. Um, are you guys kind of in India? Where I don't know if anyone wants to India. I see, I see. So yeah, so usually in most countries nowadays, they use a central banking system, right? So India, they have the Reserve Bank of India, right? If it's China, they have the People's Bank of China. In the US, it's the Federal Reserve, right? So usually a question would be who creates money in our current system? Like I would take a survey, but it's Zoom, so but some answers people there are different schools in economics who say the government takes more of a role, the central bank, the commercial banks, meaning the banks that actually do the lending, or it's business and individuals, so uh, people who have a demand for borrowing money, right? So the truth is all of these are very important participants in the system, and depending on the different context, any of them could be the main driver of the changes in money supply. So, for example, during COVID, right, a lot of governments sent out stimulus checks. So, in that case, that fiscal policy is what drove the growth in money supply. Whereas currently, I think you guys know there's been a lot of changes in monetary policy, right? So Federal Reserve increasing rates and now trying to ease rates, and that this similar things have been have happened in various countries. So in that case, central bank would be. But for example, in a expansionary business cycle, so for example, the dot-com in the 90s, there could be a lot of organic demand in from businesses, individuals borrowing, investing, which is lent by commercial banks, right? So uh, the takeaway is really like the monetary system is a dynamic system, and we have to analyze the situation as they come up, right? And one of the framework, just providing a framework, one of the frameworks that I like to use to think about the monetary system, something I find very helpful is Bernard Lietaer. Bernard Lietaer is one of the architects of the euro, so the euro currency, the European Central Bank, the euro that's used in all of the EU countries. He's also an economics professor of economics. Um, so he defines money as an agreement within a community to use something as a means of payment. And so he gives a very broad definition, right? So one thing to really keep in mind is that the monetary system, like the way probably everyday people experience it, it seems like, like a dollar is a dollar, five is five, it just seems like a very like impartial um number, right? But it's important to keep in mind that monetary system based on the way it's structured, based on the way it's designed and it acts. Um, it's not a value neutral system. It's not a neutral system. Based on the structural characteristics, there are downstream implications and consequences, and there are also alternatives, right? So it's kind of hard to kind of almost keep our mind imagine outside of the system. Like I said, pretty much every country in the world right now uses a central banking system. But it is also important to keep in mind the central banking system is really less than 200 years old. Like in the US, it started barely a bit over 100 years ago, right? So for Leotair, he points out that there's four structural characteristics of the prevailing monetary system that we live under. So one is that it originates from the nation state, right? So the US uses a dollar, there's a rupee, right? And then there's a peso or euro. Um, so it so some alternatives that's been used in history would be, Catholic Church at one point was very important in regulating commerce, and they set the rules for how the economy works. And there's also a lot of local economies, right? So there will be there have been precedents for state or local governments to issue their own currencies that's used in a local economy. And even businesses and enterprises, for example, something that all of you guys may have used is like coupons or gift cards, right? That's a currency that's used by businesses and enterprises. So there's implications for kind of these structural characteristics. So, for example, when you talk about a nation state, right? A nation state has boundaries and they can enforce regulations within that boundaries, right? And then, you know, without going into war against another country, there's a kind of a limit to how they regulate. But within their borders, they almost have complete authority on how to regulate commerce, right? Whereas if you think about it in history, like a church or a business with a global supply chain, that actually behaves differently, right? Um, and there's also historians and economists have concluded that the only reliable way for nation state economies to achieve full employment, that is to fully mobilize the productive capacity of an economy, is through war. So in history, so World War II was looking back, historians have agreed World War II was the deciding factor to pull the US out of Great Depression, right? So kind of just talking through, what I mean by a structural characteristic, the alternatives, and the different implications that would be, right? Um, so the second point is that typically it's managed through a central banking system. So meaning there's one central bank that controls the monetary policy in a country, and they support and they kind of plug into the commercial bank. So those are the banks that you go to make deposits, to borrow money, to use your credit card, settle your credit card payments and things like that. Alternatives have also included like free banking. I'll go into that in the next slide. Nationalized banks. So, for example, during the Soviet Union, the government kind of took over the bank and all the, so in place of a central bank and an independent central bank, which is what most countries nowadays use, the banking decisions, lending decisions kind of, were decided by the central government, right? So that has implications for access to credit, policies, policy implications. And for example, um, there's been a big trend of bank consolidation in the US since the central banking system has been implemented. I think similar things have happened in pretty much a lot of countries that's adopted a central banking system. So what that means is 100 years ago in the US, there were 30,000 banks in the US. Nowadays, it's less than 3,000. So we've seen a trend of banks rolling together, being merged, rolling up to bigger banks, more branches nationally or even globally, rather than a lot of small independent regional banks, right? The third structural characteristic is that it's a fiat currency, meaning that it's not backed by anything material. So alternatives to that could be a gold standard, so money that's can be exchanged for gold or silver at a bank. It could be backed by a natural resource. So, for example, oil. So that's something Venezuela did, issuing currency that was backed by oil. Um, or in the businesses, right? When businesses issue gift cards or like low points, bonus points, things like that, it's backed by their products and services, right? So there's implications around artificial scarcity and the issuing authority. So what I mean by that is since fiat currency is not backed by anything material, the value of a fiat currency um, necessarily derives from its scarcity, meaning uh, money as we have experienced it, like money is valuable because some people have it and some other people don't have it. And people who don't have the money need to work and earn or do something to earn that money from people who do have money, right? So that there's a structural implication and consequence to that characteristic of that system, right? And the issuing authority aspect, what I mean by that is so, for example, this ties into the fact that it's issued by the nation state. So if the US government says, we forbid you from sending money to North Korea to fund their operations, do they have the authority to do that on the US dollar? Because technically the US dollar derives its value ultimately from, the backing of the American government, right? So that comes into like authority and what, the right of use or the right to, set policies around that. And the fourth one would be, that money is created as debt with interest. So there's some alternatives with interest-free public loans, state issued paper monies, or even in blockchain, like an ICO, right? So when there's an initial batch of coins that are issued, they're kind of created into existence, right? They didn't say it's not, the foundation or saying we owe you one. There's no, debt and there's no interest. It's, kind of created. I'm sure they back it or they have different narratives about where that value comes from. So that has implications about inequality in a society, competition, growth, and systemic risk. I can, just in the interest of time, and I'm trying to, if you guys have questions, I can get into some of this. I know I'm throwing a lot of stuff at you, but the rest of the slides will be more. So after this framework, I'm just going to show you some of the things. So in the US, there was an era called free banking era where banks can issue their own banknotes that's backed usually by gold and silver. So what you ended up having was, you had a lot of regional banks, or even, this is a Bank of Germantown in Philadelphia, and these are regional banks and, railroad banks that are derivative from like a company, right? And they all issued their own banknotes that are not redeemable at other banks. So meaning currently, like if I have $10, I can go to any bank and deposit it, right? But back then you had to go back to the same bank that you're doing business with and maybe take out the gold before you can exchange it, or you have to go to a bank that has a partnership, right? So this may sound like a primitive system to us today, but actually, economists and historians have agreed that this is kind of the growth engine for the westward expansion in the US because it provided a lot of the financing and it made credit widely available for people that wanted to, for example, build a farm and expand westward. And that was it was a system that was very pro growth. Some other contemporary use cases. So, for example, here, blockchain companies, especially blockchain companies, have gotten a pattern of so some of them pay their employees and even pay, supporters or issue grants that are denominated in their own native tokens. And businesses have also adopted this practice. So Chick-fil-A has paid a legal settlement in their Chick-fil-A gift cards, right? So that means that they're not taking money out of their revenue and they're not taking money from borrowing, right? They're issuing that Chick-fil-A gift card, which the cost of providing that service is incurred when the customers come back to redeem it, right? Something also that's more relevant to AI. So Microsoft invested $1 billion in OpenAI, and half of it was Azure credits. So if you guys have worked with, Microsoft Azure, so that's their cloud infrastructure. So they invested that money. It's almost a subsidy from the Microsoft Corporation. Not a usually we're familiar with, government subsidy, right? So they did an investment. So OpenAI would actually use a lot of these, um, you know, the Azure cloud infrastructure when they develop AI models. This is Furuya Kipu. It's a system in Japan. It's a ledger system for elder care. So younger people who are in different cities to visit and help elders who, have children in other cities working. So they have a ledger system for that. So just giving you a taste of everything, in the contemporary use cases. And an interesting topic I have is, monetary system in the age of AI. So as some of you may know, that Sam Altman, have I think a lot of figures in the AI space have talked about, universal basic income. When you have AI that automated a significant part of the economy, how would everyday people, kind of make a living? So Sam Altman has done UBI studies. Sam Altman has also found an idea that he talked about very interesting called universal basic compute. I think, he said you'll get a slice of kind of the GPT's compute. So I think, you know, so tying this into a monetary system where you can say, so for example, let's say if, with the open source code repo, if somebody contributes like a pull request, maybe they get compensated with some compute units, or some people they can make a correction to a ChatGPT answer, and if they provide the correct annotation, they also get a piece of the compute units. Whereas somebody who's maybe asking ChatGPT to do the homework, they'll have to pay additional compute, right? So the pricing and how you distribute, I think if you really actually implement a kind of some concept of this, it'd be a very interesting monetary system that works with AI, right? And it's very relevant to the Live AI hackathon as well. I'll talk a little bit about, our project and what we've done. So, we've turned this into a startup, and yeah, don't let these like mock-ups scare you. I mean, this is like from my pitch deck. I don't think you're expected to do all this just for the hackathon, but just give you guys like what we did for our project. Our team is called Script Ledger. Um, and we really started at Live AI. So what we did was we tokenized gift card system, so these enterprise currencies, and we made it into a payment and monetary system, right? So we have digitized kind of QR gift cards and a mobile wallet for people to add gift cards and track their balances, and something like this where they can exchange from brand to brand. So if you, for example, get paid, or you bought a gift card, or you got a reward or got a refund, you don't have to go through the banking system at all. You go from, business to business, and then there's an exchange rate based on the monetary um, policy of these different businesses, right? So yeah, that's what we did at Script Ledger, and even after the hackathon, we kept making progress. Did demos at Miami Tech Week. Went to a variety of different uh, conferences. Currently, we're starting a pilot, start integrating some local businesses. We're based in the DC, Maryland, Virginia area. So yeah, so definitely, if you stumble, hopefully you guys stumble on a project and meet like-minded folks, and definitely it's you have a future, and if you want to keep working on the project and take it into something that's maybe a business or more than just kind of a hackathon project. Um, oops. This I had some recommended readings in this space, but um Yeah, let me maybe I should refresh this. But yeah, that's the end of my presentation. Yeah, so this is
Yeah, I guess Joseph, can you go and type the names into the chat? That way people can copy paste that text. And then yeah, we also want to, or for the audience, we also want to make sure you guys get to hear a little bit about Joseph's experience, not just at the hackathon last year, but a little bit of how did he go from there to, from there to here. Because obviously we do hope that you have a good time, and maybe a year from now, we're inviting you to be a speaker here, because your project went what it did well, or you're able to join say an incubator or accelerator and get funded. So I guess initially, or actually one of the trying to think what would be a good first question, because there's a lot of interesting things that y'all did. uh I guess, Joseph, let's start with, how did you think of this idea initially?
yeah. So I've been in a blockchain space doing some development, and like for me, I was always like interested in economics, and yeah, frankly, I think um you know like the generation that we're in, I think a lot of the things, it almost feels like for me at least, like I almost feel like an itch because a lot of the old ideas, like what, our parents, things that work for them don't really work well for us. So it was just like that curiosity that was thinking that, you know, um, the government's deficit, they're always, because the US government, a lot of mo most governments are now, in so much debt, and they're looking to cut spending, and thinking about like cutting Social Security, all that stuff. So I really like dug into economics, and was thinking that, also very inspired by a lot of the things that were going on in blockchain about, new money and a system that can actually better serve our needs and things like that. So I just threw around this idea, and kind of like also kind of observe a lot of the um, things like, some pain points people have with gift cards, and kind of seeing it as kind of an alternative payment system. So that's why I took a shot at the idea. Definitely feel like live AI, and being able to meet a lot of people, kind of, and just being able to be a part of that event, like definitely help me pursue this and put it into, and actually start developing a prototype and put it into action.
All right. And then I guess how'd you find your teammates? Because that was a really interesting thing that happened for y'all.
Yeah. So I first started chatting with, so I think in the Discord group, people were introducing each other, and worked with Hamad and Hans, and Hamad also met. So we were cross campus actually. I didn't realize that Hamad was going to Harvard. I thought, uh, you know, he's actually going down Duke. So we're working cross campus. That was interesting. But we were able to get some work in. So that, yeah.
Yeah, and I do want to clarify for everyone, you are allowed to work across campuses. We purposely never mention that in our rules or regulations. We do say max team size of four, but we purposely never said anything about working remotely or not working remotely. Part of it is I was hoping people would kind of just figure out on their own. Where I guess, Joseph, in your case, it was an accident, but then y'all realized, well, why not? He never said you can't do it. Um, so it's funny that you found a loophole by accident. I thought it would be people figure out. He never said that. Is that a loophole? No, not exactly. I left it open, but yeah, the main thing is, now you can do that, and you know how to do that. Others know now that they can also do that. So, for you, what was your experience like working remotely once you realized, wait a minute, we're on different campuses?
Yeah. I think we try to structure as best we can, but it was kind of like, like a half-hour check-in meeting, like every, like 3, 4 hours, and then other than that, like just like, hey, here's a checkpoint, here's what we're gonna do for the next few hours. And then sometimes like if yeah, we did like remote work and like pair program a little bit just like to work through some issues. Um so but yeah, I think yeah, so that's how we made it work.
Good stuff. What were some challenges you faced aside from, you're working remotely and all that? What were some challenges you faced?
Yeah, I think a big thing was just so it was a very ambitious project, right? There were a lot of thought behind it. But then when we actually got down, I had to, like, oh, my development environment is like not setting up. So this, like the like nitty-gritty things you have to do when you actually try to get something to work. But yeah, but yeah, then we had to some of it was also we're looking at the right framework for kind of a mobile development. We're looking at like Vercel and some, JavaScript, and also I believe that year um w- one of the blockchain protocol was a sponsor, and we're trying to figure out their stack, how to implement it on their blockchain. So we had to read a lot of the documentation and figure that out. Um, yeah, so yeah, th those were some of the challenges, but yeah, some of it we just had to kind of like put a static screen to just to make sure people got our concept rather than do like a full-on integration. So
Yeah, it's always one of those annoying things where you're like, if we had more time, we'd have it done. And it's like, yeah, except not enough time. So yeah, I do want to clarify for everyone, Live AI last year was 24 hours, Saturday noon to Sunday noon. So y'all are actually getting a lot of extra time. Part of it is, the event expanded a lot. We have way more people, especially last minute. So many people from NYU signed up, and we're all kind of like, wait, what? Okay. And that's partly why we announced, all right, we're just going to commit now to adding NYAC. And the reason we didn't say NYU specifically is because there are challenges on getting space at your school. Now, obviously I'll reach out to you NYU students, we'll figure that out. If it doesn't work, we can at least say, all right, maybe we get a space in the city. But I think the main thing is just these are some things that happened led to us saying, okay, we need to expand the event. So you have a lot more time. You can definitely go and get some sleep tonight. Uh, Joseph, I don't know how much y'all slept because I barely slept. But yeah, everyone can sleep a little bit more and still have enough time to get stuff done. So it's probably a lot healthier. And the nice thing is all of you can see from Joseph's example, there are ways to work together across campuses. So, we're not saying you have to or that you shouldn't. We're simply saying you have these options and you have the awareness. So I guess Joseph, there's also another interesting thing is working together and building remotely. Yeah, that's one thing. But how did y'all handle? Because this is the thing, y'all won on both campuses, which meant you had to pitch well, which means you had to pitch well. How did y'all handle pitching across campuses?
yeah, no, I guess I'm not sure because maybe I just did a maybe I did a good job introducing the concept, and like I had my teammates like really believed in it and they were very bought in. So I actually I'm not too sure what Hamad exactly said because like I didn't like tell them, we didn't like go off of script, so we were like we were kind of like improvising, but yeah, but I guess he did very well. So,
Yeah, he did because I some of the words y'all won were for pitching well. So he definitely did a good job with that. And that's the thing. I saw them doing the coding at Harvard, but then I flew into Duke to close the event. So I did the judging and all that at Duke. And even then I was overseeing the judging, but not judging myself. So, I didn't really get to pay attention to all the details. It was just kind of what I heard as I walked by and all that. But I think the main thing really is you know, I think everyone can probably tell, it starts with finding great teammates. putting in the time and effort to communicate well. Um, going from there, you have a good idea, you have good, you have good skills for yourself. You work together, put it together, and obviously a lot of communication, a lot of coordination, and get to the point where you can say, okay, great, we're ready to build this, we're ready to pitch this. You did separate campuses separately, but then obviously also the strength of your project, being able to win at the global level as well. And then obviously, not just saying, "Oh, live AI is awesome." Oh, you went to Miami Tech Week, so clearly, clearly what you build is great. And I think the main thing is also from the intellectual standpoint to be able to say there's a lot of research that backs this up. And I don't remember, do you guys submit any of that research with your pitch video? Because that's not necessary, but I think that's an interesting theme for some of these teams to consider is whatever they build, sometimes, there might be research they can submit with it, or they can put into their pitch video to, to reinforce why it had to be built, why they decided to be the ones to build it.
Yeah, for us, I think we wrote like I try to write that into the dev post because yeah, even after the video you have a lot of these sections. But I probably um I mean what I'm presenting to you guys is like after like more than a year of, like it's all di the knowledge has distilled to like a lot of these so but like I probably didn't even have some of this knowledge a year ago when I actually did the project, but the more, I'm in this space, I the more I've read, I've researched, or I've done things proved out the concept, and then I got the talking points lined up more. So
Yeah, well, it definitely helps to be a Stanford double grad, and that's partly why with Live AI, some of you have noticed we've started calling it Live AI Ivy Plus. We do want to emphasize that this event, it is a lot of we want to get not necessarily that you're already the best, but we're trying to find people who want to become the best of the best. And of course, there's a lot of hard work, a lot of effort, a lot of research, studying. You got to develop your brain, you got to understand the concepts, and you got to be willing to try and fail. So, we're not saying we are the best. We're saying we're here because we want to become the best. So, just like Joseph said, a lot of this stuff he didn't know a year ago, a lot of the stuff that seems so easy for us running live AI this year, we didn't know last year. So, I think the main thing really comes down to, for everyone, we hope that this talk was a little bit different, but we hope that you were able to see how a lot of this deeper research plays a big role in helping teams win. Sometimes you do have to dig deep intellectually. And even then, you still, just have a lot of room to be creative, right? Tokenizing gift cards. And, from there, what else can you do? There's a lot of different things going out there. Just take your time, think through your ideas. Because remember, most hackathons, it's Saturday noon to Sunday noon. And those of you in Asia, you're starting as soon as you wake up on Saturday, going until you go to bed on Sunday. Those of you in the Americas, you're starting Friday night and you go into Sunday noon. So it's a lot of flexibility, a lot of time. Not forever, but you do have a lot more time. You know, take your time. Push the pace a bit, but take your time and make sure you're able to meet up and say, hey, what should we do? Find a way to communicate and coordinate, whether it's in person or remote. You can definitely make this happen and build a great product. And hey, maybe next week or not next week, next year you'll be at Miami Tech Week and give them the talk here at Live AI. So, uh, if there's anything, I guess, Joseph, you put your LinkedIn in the chat, people can reach out to you. I guess if anyone has any questions, go ahead and post that in the chat too. We can take a couple questions real quick. Maybe, yeah, we can take two questions, I guess.
yeah, they can just unmute, right? I can or they
Yeah, I guess feel free unmute or type into the chat. Okay, Joseph, which technologies did you use for your project?
Yeah, so last year we used the sponsor technology. So that was the ICP blockchain. That was the blockchain that we plugged into. But now we had a like a web component, which is we use JavaScript. And the mobile, my teammate at that time used, I think he used like Vercel for kind of a mobile framework. So yeah, does
All right.
anybody have an economics background or like have more of a blockchain focus, or are you guys working on AI related projects? Yeah. Okay. Are you guys working on like kind of like improving a model or like using one of the models for applications or what kind of things? Okay. Well, best of luck, guys.
All right. Yeah, so everyone, there's Joseph's LinkedIn. Uh, Obviously, same thing I've been saying. Go to Discord if you have any questions. A lot of us on the in the Americas, we are going to sleep soon. So unfortunately, we do need to say goodnight to most of you. Part of it is because we have some morning stuff like the virtual campus tour, which for us is 9 a.m. Eastern, but then that's 9 p.m. in say Shanghai, Singapore, 8 p.m. for Bangkok, Thailand, 6:30 p.m. for India. It's not exactly going to bed for you, but that is your dinner time. You're probably by then you're probably looking to wind down and maybe relax a bit. Yeah, maybe code some more, but um, you know, the main thing is we want to be awake for that so we can show you a little bit of the campuses, Duke and Harvard. Also, you can hear about people's experience going to those schools. And then we will start getting into our own speakers. So you've already had your speaking session, we're going to start having our speaking sessions at Duke and at Harvard. And of course, Joseph will be at Duke with me. We're going to have a lot of great speakers at Harvard as well. Uh, we are unfortunately not able to do great recordings of these talks, but we have some speakers who suggested ways that we can start doing next year, or not just next year, next time. So hopefully these talks we'll have that in the future. For now, hopefully you guys enjoy the scavenger hunt, which is on Discord. Hopefully you also have fun connecting with each other, find some teammates, and best of luck. Hope to see you online for other things like the virtual campus tour, various other activities, and maybe, one day we'll see you in person.
All right, see you guys.
All right. Take it easy, everyone. Good luck while we go to sleep here. We'll see you around.